Hi there, I care and you matter. I'm Shannon, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about my personal writing habit. In other words, how do I help myself? I work from home. I have a son who has special needs. So my days, oh, I wish I could plan them out better. And that's not true. I plan them out great. The problem is that life happens. And as much as I wish I could have a daily writing habit, that's just not reality for me. So if you can do it, I highly suggest you develop a daily writing habit. But again, that's not in my realm of possibilities. However, I am determined to write and to write consistently. So how do I do that when life throws crap my way? That's what we're going to talk about today. My first tip and the first thing I do for myself is I need to know where to start. So, in other words, when I sit down to write, I'm not sitting down to think about what I'm going to write. I already know. Specifically, I open up my Google spreadsheet, or I reference my notes. I will have jotted down what I wrote about last time, and I quickly review what it is that I need to be writing about during this writing section. So in other words, my writing time is not thinking time. It is bona fide only writing time. I am getting words into my manuscript. I'm not thinking. I'm not making decisions. I'm not even reviewing. I review before I actually start my writing. And I'll actually share in another video how I do that. I use Google Docs because it's free. I know there are a lot of people out there who use things like Notion and Scrivener, I think it's called. Yeah, I don't want to have to use things that I have to pay for. And so, like I said, I'll share in another video how I do this. But in short, I keep a spreadsheet. And in each row of the spreadsheet, I list by chapter 3 or 4 notes of what key things happen in that chapter. And that's how I plot out each story. And that way, when I sit down to write, I open that up and I can see very easily, very clearly at a glance what happened in the last chapter and what I need to be writing about in this writing session, in this chapter. I will say that I write middle grade fiction, so my chapters are intentionally very short. I will never stop mid chapter. I like to wrap up at least one chapter in a writing session, and that's just because it's easier for me the way I write. Maybe if I was able to write on a daily basis, I wouldn't be so nitpicky about that. But for me, it's just far easier to write at least one complete chapter in a session. And if I keep writing, then I complete that chapter as well. But I will never stop mid chapter. But again, knowing where I start or where I need to start before I even sit down to write is tip number 1, because then I don't waste any time on that feeling of, oh crap, where do I begin? Oh crap, where do I start? Wait, what do I write now? Because there's nothing worse than staring at a blank screen and not knowing what to do. Who would want to do that? That would just keep me from writing at all. So do yourself a favor and avoid that. Know where you're going to start before you even sit down to do it. Next, I set the mood. I unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, I work inside a little walk-in closet in my bedroom that I moved all my clothing out of, told my husband, sorry. I value my sanity over our wardrobe. And so thankfully I had his encouragement, but I moved everything out, gutted the closet, and turned it into a little workspace. I work part-time as a curriculum writer, so I have a part-time job, but I also use this as my own writing area for my own projects. And in order to create more distinction between the two, there are certain things that I do in order to set the mood, the tone, to get my mind ready, to be more creative, and to remember that, okay, wait, you are switching gears here. You are moving into a more creative space. You're no longer working on expository writing, curriculum writing. You are instead working in a creative, fictional way. How do I do that? In the same space that I actually work. I work on changing my lighting. When I am working on my actual work, my curriculum writing, I have bright sunshine. There are no windows, first of all. There are no windows in my closet. But I have very bright white daylight type lights intentionally to wake me up because there are no windows and I live in the Pacific Northwest where we have majority gray skies for most of the years. But when I start to write on my manuscript, I switch to a very soft, warm light, much more relaxing and cozy feeling. Next, I like to write to music, but specifically, I only write to instrumentals. There can be no words because if it's music or songs that I like with words that I know, I find that I get too caught up in the song. Now, you do you. If soft, quiet songs with words playing in the background help you, hey, that's great. But for me, I find that listening to instrumentals, and I don't mean soft, they can be quite fast moving and dramatic, but they have to be instrumentals. I like that audio wallpaper. It helps change the feeling for me, and it also lets other people in the house know that, hey, mom's writing. Don't disturb her. That leads me to my next tip of how I set my mood. I don't have a door on my closet, but I have a curtain. Honestly, it's not even a curtain. It's a bed sheet hung up with little curtain clips on a shower curtain rod that I pull across the doorway to let people know that, hey, unless you're dying, please don't interrupt me. I'm writing. So between the closed curtain and the audio wallpaper and the dim lights, not only does it let everybody else in the household know I'm busy, but it truly sets my mind, it gets me in a different frame of mind. It sets me in the mood to actually start writing. It helps, honestly, gets me more relaxed. And if I can equate writing my manuscripts with feeling more relaxed, oh, what great stress reliever it is. Next, I use a timer, and let me grab that to show you. I like to write, ideally, in 25-minute increments. Now, honestly, that doesn't usually happen in the evenings or on the weekends, but if I can do it while Mark's at school, 25 minutes is perfect for me, because even if I don't feel like writing, because honestly, I love writing, but there are some days I just can't get motivated to do it. Imposter syndrome, stress, whatever, for whatever reason, there are just some days that I can't bring myself to do it. But I can do anything for 25 minutes if I know there's an endpoint. So that's my default time frame. And so I set my timer. This I just got on Amazon. If I can find the link to it, it's cheap. I'll put it down below so you can have a peek at it yourself. But I like it because you can change the time just by rotating this little dial. And then to start, I'm going to go ahead and start it here while we talk. It will beep when the time is up, but you can actually watch the red move on the timer. And I love that. I don't watch the clock when I write. It's just a reminder when I start it to, hey, if you want to keep going when the time is up, great. Do so if you have the opportunity. But if you can't or you don't feel like writing more, that's okay, because, hey, you can tick off one writing sprint. And for me personally, I'm a fairly fast writer, fairly quick at it. I can write a lot in 25 minutes. So that feels great. It really feels like a win. I am going to try and be quiet here for the last 20 seconds so that you can hear the timer. It's not that loud, which is another thing I like about it. Here we go. We're down to the last 10 seconds almost here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then to reset the timer, you just hit the button there. Now, if you stick to the same amount of time for your writing sprints on this timer, it will always just remember the time that you last picked. But I love this little timer because, like I said, it helps me plan out my writing time, my writing sprint, whether I feel like I'm in the mood to write or not, which helps me be productive. Next, I like to have a visual way to track my progress. How do I do that? I highlight the chapter in my Google Sheet that tells me exactly where I am. Now, I not only have chapter titles in all of my books, but I have chapter numbers. And while I may not know exactly how many chapters are going to be in my book, I'm seeing the growth from chapter 1, chapter 2, all the way up to, I don't know, chapter 16, 17. That feels good. It makes me feel like I'm making progress, even on my rough draft. I also, just out of curiosity, I like to keep a word count of each chapter, which I also add in my Google Sheet. And again, like I said, I will share that in another video upcoming here. Last but not least, I get comfortable. Do not sit down to write without first paying attention to your personal needs. I make sure I have my favorite drink, whether I feel like having a hot tea or an iced tea that day. Tea is my favorite thing. I have a drink ready to go. I turn down all the alerts on my email and Outlook. I turn my phone down so I don't get notifications. I make sure to minimize all the distractions, or at least as many distractions I can have control over. And I do a quick temperature check. I get really hot and really cold. I am in that magical time of life where I get hot flashes constantly. So I ensure, oh, this is hysterical. I have a fan and a little electric fireplace within arm's reach at all times. And I dress in layers. So I do a quick temperature check to make sure, okay, I'm going to sit here, but no matter if I get cold or I get hot, I'm ready with just an arm's reach to make sure that my temperature does not stop me in my tracks, that my writing can keep going, that I can keep the flow that I'm having. So there you have it. How do I help myself? I know where I need to start when I sit down to write. I set the mood so that my brain knows, oh, okay, we know what's happening. Let's get in the creative flow. I use a timer to keep me on track and to keep me motivated. I track my progress so that I can know, hey, even if I got one writing sprint in, I have still moved my needle forward. My story is moving right along. And last but not least, I get comfortable before I get started so that it doesn't stop me in my tracks or hinder my progress. So there you go. I hope that those 5 tips on how I help myself also help you make progress in your own writing endeavors. Hey, if you've liked this video, I ask that you pay the fee. What's the fee? Share me, like this video, leave a comment, let me know how this video has helped you. Until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.